Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, your drink, your pills, while we take a break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back, listeners. How y'all doing? How's the Christmas season shaping? Are we looking like Christmas? Not by me yet. Anyhow, it's been 8 days since I've been here. And last Thursday, I announced that the Prime Minister was out of town, left us in the mudslides, the floods, the thunderstorms, and went to Guyana. I have news for you. The Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, since came and left. He left again. So, as I speak to you here, Minister Andy Williams is acting again as Prime Minister. Now, posted on the Prime Minister's Facebook page is a release from the office of the Prime Minister. And I'm going to read to you what this release said. The Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, participates in the 16th edition of the Madeiz Forum. Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell is set to participate in the 16th edition of the Madeiz Forum in Tangier, Morocco, scheduled for November the 27th to the 30th. Let's see, it's a long thing. Let's get it here. Prime Minister will have several bilateral meetings with officials from the government of the Kingdom of Morocco with a view to conclude discussions on the roadmap for cooperation between Grenada and the Kingdom of Morocco. Any reason for a trip? Honorable Andy Williams, Minister of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation, will act as Prime Minister until Honorable Deacon Mitchell returns to the state on Sunday, December the 1st. He gone again, right? Now, so why isn't the releases of the Prime Minister's travels being posted on the GIS network? Or weren't we told that on the regular network stations? Why do we have to go on the Prime Minister's page to find out that the Prime Minister is off island? Why? Right? Why is it, if you're not in social media, as a citizen of Grenada, you have no knowledge where our Prime Minister is and who is acting on his behalf? I mean, why? It's everybody is like, you know the Prime Minister gone again? I saw it on his Facebook page. No, I don't know, because I don't go on his Facebook page, right? Just imagine there's no record of our Prime Minister leaving Grenada for Rwanda. Just imagine that. And why is that? Because they put it up on his Facebook page and they pull it down when he did not show up there. But why you have to pull it down? That is part of history. The Prime Minister was on his way to Rwanda, and he didn't go again, right? He had a detour, right? They removed it. And so there's no record of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell leaving Grenada for Rwanda. No record, right? Wiped out totally. It cannot be found anywhere. It's as if it never happened. I mean, what is it? Is it child's play? You know, you put up something, you like it, you take it down. And that is why the Prime Minister has surrounded himself with a St. David's posse, along with his nation builders. So they could do whatever they want, go against laws and legislations anytime they want, go against the norms anytime they want, whenever they want. And no one has to give account of that. No one. And that is also why no professionals want to stick around them. If by chance you thought that that was something good and you joined, look at that. If you look at it, they're bailing out in numbers. Any professional, anybody with any sort of integrity, do not want to be associated with the NDC, the Deacon Mitchell NDC-led administration. There was a very concerning post on Facebook that got my attention. A mother and her kids who was relocated to Grenada from Petite Martinique post-burial was distressed enough to put it all out there on Facebook. As I understand it, a very quiet and peaceful individual, which she confirmed to me for herself. When I spoke to her, the first thing she said, you know, I am a very quiet person. I don't really get involved in things, but I cannot take it anymore. I have to speak out. 4 families out of Petite Martinique was relocated in the interim to Grenada post-Hurricane Beryl. 1 set went to St. David's, another to Mount Morris, and 2 families, Tantine, St. George's. A mother of 3, that's the ones in Tantine, a mother of 3 ages 3, 9, and 11, a mother of 2 ages 11 and 12. All 7 of them living together in Tantine, St. George's. 5 kids involved. So I was reliably informed that they were brought to Grenada, organized by Mrs. Dawn DeCoto, relocated to Grenada on the 19th of July, these families. And there were other persons, but we're going to stick to topic here right now. The agreement, they will relocate to mainland Grenada for 1 year, all expenses paid. Food, electricity, water, gas, etc., etc. They were dropped off like bags of potatoes. And since then, not a call from anyone to ask how they were doing. People involved in having them bringing them to Grenada. I was told, however, that the PS in social development, Ms. Jeremiah, who since has been removed and replaced elsewhere, was very kind to them, sending food items and whatever they needed once they asked for it. Ms. Jeremiah was transferred, and the last time they received food items was in September 2024. They were making ends meet, so to speak. Both ladies found themselves little jobs to help send their kids to school here on mainland. On Tuesday afternoon, the 27th November 2024, the electricity was disconnected. Remember, they didn't get food since September, but they were making ends meet, as I said, find a little food to feed their children, right? The electricity was disconnected, and before that, they had no gas, cooking gas. Meanwhile, Mrs. DeCoto is in Dubai, having a jolly good time. Here's Ms. DeCoto swinging away in Dubai. Ms. Koto hosted a GoFundMe page right after the hurricane. If you look on the screen, you see what I'm talking about. In fact, the site was put up on the 1st of July 2024. The GoFundMe page exceeded its target of £50,000 and to a total of £51,342 was raised in the GoFundMe. I have been trying to get information from the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique about the GoFundMe. Nobody has any information to give to me yet about the GoFundMe. Not sure where it went, if it went to NADMA or the government of Grenada, but we can't seem to trace the GoFundMe. The families are in distress. The kids are being traumatized all over again with no electricity, no food. And you know, the situation is dire. At least they had food in Petit Martinique, she mentioned to me. They got a hold of the new permanent secretary, her telephone number, and called. Her concern was, where did you get my number? Folks, this is serious. You don't remove people, uproot them. Yeah, there's a hurricane. As she told me, she don't have a home right now in Petit Martinique, but there are others who don't, and they're making it do. But I'm sure they were happy for the opportunity to leave Petit Martinique and come to Grenada whilst things come back in place for the year, you know, and with their kids can go to school and stuff like that. This lady was very active in helping in the cleaning up and the distribution of relief items in Petit Martinique. She was one of the ones manning the shelter and the shed where people go to get food. And so I guess she looked at it as a reward, you know, for her hard work in the relief effort. So let's do better. Let's you know, treat people better. People do not forget ill treatment. They really don't. You know, and kids are involved, young kids. They've already been traumatized from the hurricane. Let's do better than that. Come on, Minister for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, Minister for Social Development, Tanti Glow. I mean, y'all pick it up, man. Pick it up. Pick up the pieces and let's do better than that. You know, it's this time again, this time of the year. And no, it's not Christmas. Christmas comes every year at the same time on December 25th. And so we know that happens then. I'm speaking about the budget presentation. We know how that is. It's not a set thing, but it happens between November, sometimes in December, and very, very rare. It was with the Tillman Thomas NDC government administration that we roll over into January a couple of times, I believe. I stand corrected there, but I think it was a couple of times. So this time we were told that it's going to be sometime this time around. I believe this is the furthest back it was pushed, February or March. This from the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, NDC-led administration. Bottom line, they have no money. They have no plans. And so everything is just falling apart. They came with a very late supplemental budget. They have not done anything yet, really, towards using up the allocations of that budget. The whole thing is a mess. In his own voice, this is Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell on the matter.
An announcement I want to move to is to indicate that we will be reading the budget in 2025, either in January or February of 2025, and not November or December as is customary. And so I'm just making that announcement now that the actual reading of the budget will take place in January or February of 2025 and not in November or December of 2024.
Okay, you had it there. January or February. My apologies. I think I said February and March. He said January and February. Got to get that right. Today, I'm going to share with you snippets from the 2023 budget presentation with Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell as Minister of Finance, presented in November of 2022. Now, pay attention, listen well, because you would see that almost all of the budget was a sham. And by the way, it was already paid for. Huh? They already knew where the money was coming from. The budget was already financed, according to Prime Minister. It was $1 billion budget. And presenting, according to the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, a clip of the budget financing.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that the 2023 budget is fully financed. Government operations before financing is forecasted to result in an overall surplus of 62.7 million. An analysis of government financing below the line in 2023 will show an overfinancing of 33 million, broken down as follows, Mr. Speaker. Domestic sources, that is from the central bank, commercial banks, regional government securities market, no domestic source of funding are projected. External sources, that is new loan disbursements, less principal repayments. Financing of 33 million is projected. One of the key sources of new external loan disbursements is a budget support operation with the World Bank to the tune of 30 million US or 81 million, which will become available during the first half of 2023. Other sources, Mr. Speaker, drawn down from the Consolidated Revenue Fund and disposal of assets. No sources of funding are projected. Based on the foregoing, Mr. Speaker, government is expected to generate a financing surplus of $96.2 million.
Okay, he said it, so budget already paid for. Here we go. This is his introduction.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise to deliver my maiden budget to this Honorable House, I wish to thank the Almighty God for His mercies and grace. Indeed, we have much to be thankful for. I'm extremely grateful to the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. I know this time I didn't say Petite Martinique, Carriacou, and Grenada. For entrusting our party, the National Democratic Congress, with a remarkable opportunity to transform our nation. Our citizens have justly voted for progressive change, a break from past failed policies and programs, from a culture of corruption and victimization, from inefficient government and weak governance, and a break from generational poverty by a large segment of our population, and by extension, the underdevelopment of our nation. Mr. Speaker, this administration will honor our promise to bring real change that will uplift this nation and secure the future of our children and grandchildren. We will work collaboratively to do what is necessary to achieve a resilient, fair, and prosperous Grenada. Mr. Speaker, while it is necessary to remain in government to effect the change we wish to see, we will not be driven by political expediency, nor will we be driven by policies aimed at keeping our people poor and vulnerable. Which has been the legacy of the past administration. Instead, Mr. Speaker, we will be driven by genuine love,
for our people and this beautiful island we are blessed to call home. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank my cabinet colleagues for their hard work and dedication thus far, and for their unwavering support in helping me lead our nation. I wish to express my profound gratitude to the transition leads, some of whom have been kept on as advisors, for their devoted time and expertise to help us settle in the seat of government and to make a positive start. Let me also thank the many government employees who not long ago were downtrodden and uncertain about their futures. Your demonstrated sacrifice and commitment to serve despite trying circumstances has not gone unnoticed. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the many citizens within and outside of the public sector and in the diaspora who have embraced our transformational agenda and are working to move Grenada forward. Mr. Speaker, the 2023 budget presents the first full year of our transformational agenda. It represents a strategic pivot towards plans, policies, projects, and programs that will transform our people and society. It seeks to build a solid foundation upon which transformation, both as a process and an outcome, will be achieved. In this regard, I am honored to present our inaugural budget under the theme Vision 2035, People-Centered Transformation, laying the foundation for resilience, empowerment, and growth. Mr. Speaker, this budget is presented at a time of great uncertainty at the global level, which can have devastating impacts on our economy. The lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical tensions, and the escalating war in Ukraine are fueling inflation in food and energy, causing supply chain disruptions and shortages and delays of key imports. Increasing interest rates in advanced economies to curb rising inflation is driving down demand and fueling recession in our major trading partners, with significant potential impact on tourism and foreign direct investments. A synopsis of the macroeconomic and social context for the 2023 estimates of revenue and expenditure is included as an appendix to the published version of this statement, with further details in the 2022 Annual Economic Review and the Medium-Term Fiscal Framework 2023 to 2025. Notwithstanding the foregoing, Mr. Speaker, we are highly confident that our policies and programs will continue to support growth and the creation of sustainable jobs, empower less fortunate citizens, and begin a process of real progress and development among our people. Following on the 6% growth this year, the economy is forecasted to expand further by 3.6% in 2023, underpinned by continued strong recovery in tourism and robust construction activities. Mr. Speaker, on our journey to bring genuine development to our country, we will undoubtedly face mounting challenges. However, we are certain that if we can withstand and surmount every trial, we can face them together as one people and one nation under God. There is a well-known African proverb that states, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Mr. Speaker, we want to change this narrative. We believe it is possible to go fast and far by working collectively towards a clear and common goal with positivity and unwavering.
Sorry, I know it was a bit long, but it's the intro. Genuine love he said. Genuine love. What a crock. Genuine love? We still await these plans, policies, projects, and the programs that the Prime Minister spoke about of his administration. We have seen none yet. No new plans, no new programs, no new projects, no new policies of this NDC administration. We await the transformational agenda. Although these days that phrase is of the past, we hear nothing of the transformers and the transformational agenda, nothing to do with transformation anymore. Sustainable jobs? Where are these jobs, Prime Minister? For who? The friends and families of you and your cabinet members, your surrogates and party hawks, your financiers? The nepotism is blatant. Said getting rid of corruption and victimization. Prime Minister, victimization is at its highest. Well, not that for corruption. So much so, you as in NDC, when I say you, are guilty of victimizing your own. And that's why we are where we are today. I set the wrong pegs in square holes because we're removing persons from their positions to bring in, well, let me say, constituents of the St. David's Parish, because all of the changes, everybody getting high positions, and all of the changes are amongst St. David's, the St. David's constituents, bringing them into the ministerial complex and positioning them to surround you for votes. St. David's have thousands of candidates. You don't get the votes. You don't need to victimize people to position your constituents. Corruption today is, as mentioned in my last week's episode, Thursday, the 21st November 2024, the Prime Minister's answer to corruption is pot calling kettle black. And he said he wanted to kill corruption. And lest we forget, here is the clip to prove it.
Well, first, let's talk a little bit about conflict of interest. There's been a lot of concern. You hear people talking a lot, and not just the people who are trying to get your job and have too much time on their hands, but there's concern about conflict of interest, people being involved with the government and the party, but still being involved in certain activities and businesses that are paid for by the state. That people feel there's whether it's improper or not, but there's still that specter of impropriety. The opposition would call it corruption in some cases.
The opposition talks about corruption?
Well, I hope my cameraman is getting your face. This is priceless. I know. But the opposition would say at worst is corruption, at best is conflict of interest. Whether or not there is that situation, does it worry you at all that there's concerns? Are you hearing about these things, or what I'm saying here to you is just? Well,
it's new stuff. It's news to me. So unless there are very specific examples that we need to address, I can do so. But I will say this because I think in a small society, you always have to manage conflict of interest. Conflict of interest will always arise. And that's why, whether it's in corporations or even in the public sector, you have to be able to see how do you treat with conflicts of interest. And I'll take a simple example. If you read a lot of our statutory bodies and the legislation that establishes them, you would see, in fact, they address conflict of interest. So, for example, most of the people who serve on statutory bodies in Grenada are volunteering their time. They get paid $300 and $500. They're essentially serving the public because we asked them to help. And you recall in our case, we actually made a call for all kinds of Grenadians to step up and help serve. So, for example, if I have my private business, let's say I'm an accountant, and you ask me to serve on a statutory body, and I'm essentially volunteering my time. And that statutory body puts certain expression of interest for accountants because they need someone to audit their books or someone to provide accounting services, for example. Now,
You may say, because I'm a director of the statutory body, that my firm should not bid. But it's a small place. The number of businesses are limited. And my firm, I may be one of the partners in the firm, and the firm may bid. The legislation actually contemplates that. So it says that as a director, if the board then has to decide who to award this contract when you have 4 or 5 competing firms, you, the director, need to declare your interests in the fact that your firm has made a bid to provide accounting services. You need to declare your interests, and oftentimes you need to recuse yourself from any decision-making that the board may make. Because it recognizes that you will end up in a situation where you either will never get private sector people who are offering services of various kinds to sovereign statutory bodies, because they will say, I have a decision to make. Do I help serve the public by providing my own time, my own skill set, my own expertise, or do I only serve my business and stay in the private sector, make bids to get work and make money? So most of these statutory bodies actually recognize that. It tells you that in those circumstances, you should declare your interest and you should recuse yourself. It will depend, in a sense, on the firm's particular culture. Some firms may say, you know what, I don't need any of this drama. I have enough clients in the private sector. I don't need government work. I don't need no statutory body work. So I could just work on only private sector business. And so the director who comes from my firm may not have a problem at all because his firm therefore never ever attempts to get government business. But not many firms can afford to do that. I'll use myself as an example. My firms, when I worked at Grant and Joseph and when I worked at Mitchell & Co., generally never worked for the government. We were probably persona non grata. We know we'd probably never get any government work except one statutory body, which is the Airports Authority. And I'm giving you real examples here. So when I talk about who want to talk about corruption, when I got involved with the National Democratic Congress and became political leader, remember, the NDC is not in government. It's not even in parliament. Within 1 week of that happening, we got an unceremonious letter from the Airports Authority telling us we've been sacked, fired. No complaints about performance, no complaints about the excellent legal services we've been providing to them. In fact, we're sacked, and you know why? Because I'm now the leader of the National Democratic Congress. And so we promptly returned all the files, etc., etc., etc. Right. Now, my firm, to a large extent, I'm the Prime Minister. The government needs legal services all over the place. My firm's position is probably, we ain't need the hassle of dealing with no government and no statutory body and to have people make things. So they don't even bid, for the most part, on government work. So I'm saying the Grenadians work there and who pay taxes just like everybody else, just to avoid any drama, effectively are, in a sense, handicapping themselves from growth, from economic development, simply because I'm the Prime Minister. Contrast that. I want you to contrast that with the history of some other law firms and the roles their partners and so on played in past administration. And ask yourself whether they took the neat decision that you don't need the government work or whether all the government work went to them. So when I say there's some people who have no moral authority to talk about some of those things, I think in many instances they're fortunate, given the kind of disrepute that they brought Grenada in over the several years, decades in many instances, that they even alive and live peacefully and nobody bothers with them about the kind of levels of corruption and so on that is taking place in this country. So I don't know that, what is it? Pot telling kettle black.
You know that statement, more and more I hear it. They're fortunate that they're even alive. It bothers me to a point. What does he mean when he say they're fortunate to be alive? But let's move on. So from that clip, we understand that the Prime Minister is agreeing that there is corruption within his administration, his government, his party, that there is corruption. Only in his mind, he's thinking that it's not as bad as the previous administration. When you use that term, pot calling kettle black, right? You're not saying that you didn't do it, but you're saying that it was somebody else was worse than you. I want to reiterate here that we voted for change and not more of the same, Prime Minister Deacon. Not for corruption and conflict of interest in plain sight, like we get from your administration. Corruption is in every one of our ministries and almost all our statutory bodies through the NDC appointed board of directors. And oh yes, Prime Minister, we do believe that you and your cabinet and friends are moving fast and far in enriching yourselves. When asked or probed further on the corruption issue, this is what Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell had to say.
Would things like that worry you in terms of the optics politically? I mean,
No, I think
you
we
know,
are transparent.
there are a bunch of people now with too much
time on their hands trying to get their job back because of corruption issues.
We are as transparent a government, I think, as we have seen in my lifetime, for sure. And I think if any issues arises and there's credible evidence of stuff, as a Prime Minister, I'm prepared to deal with it. But what I will not...
Did you look into the Lotto matter, though?
Yes, I looked at...
Because I looked into it, and there seemed to have been a bit of credibility to some of the issues.
I looked into the issue, and I just said to you, which is why I talked about how you handle conflicts in terms of what the legislation says and what has to happen, right? So I'm saying when people just simply make spurious allegations and come up with all kinds of fanciful stuff, you have to be careful that you don't allow people to draw you in and to make decisions as if you are Jesus Christ and he who is without sin cast the first stone. I'm saying the very nature of our laws recognize that you have situations where someone who serves on a board may have their firm or their business and so on bidding for work that a particular entity is offering. And there's a process and procedure that has to be followed. So I'm saying if someone makes, and you're saying, do I look into the Lotto thing simply because I'm hearing media allegations? If someone makes a credible accusation, we will obviously investigate it and then we make necessary decisions that has to be made. But too often, and I think the National Democratic Congress government in the past was allowed itself to be hoodwinked into trying to go after its own and into trying to punish its own and to hold itself at that standard that's almost impossible. When other people are doing all kind of things left, right, and center and getting away with it. So I'm saying we are living in a society where nobody's perfect. And we have to be careful that we don't try and hold people in public office to a perfect standard and then try to hold them at that.
So if someone got away with murder before, is it okay, Prime Minister, for someone in your administration to commit murder and get away with it as well because people getting away with it left, right, and center? Is that the trend we're going to take here? So because you, in your mind, there was corruption before, left, right, and center, it's okay for you and your team to commit corruption left, right, and center as well? Is it okay because of the size of the country and because everybody know each other and because people related for us to close and to turn a blind eye to corruption and conflict of interest? Coming from the Prime Minister of Grenada, I have to play back these clips because I want you guys, I wanted to get into your mind who we dealing with as leader of this country. The size of the island makes it difficult to keep high standards. And he's saying basically there's no perfect person. And so it's okay. Wow. Wow. Moving right along. Folks, citizen engagement. Let's hear what the Prime Minister had to say.
Citizen engagement. Mr. Speaker, this administration is committed to putting people first. We have meaningfully engaged our citizens in the preparation of this budget through widely held consultations, including numerous community visits and engagements. Many of the policies, projects, and programs in this budget are shaped by the rich, thoughtful, and productive comments of our citizens. We value the relationships we have built in communities throughout the length and breadth of our beautiful tri-island state. This administration is not of the belief that community visits and town hall meetings are restricted to election time. We are a government of the people, for the people, and we will continue to engage our citizens through quarterly town hall meetings, maintaining transparency and keeping all Grenadians informed on the current state of our nation. To further demonstrate our commitment to put people at the center of our development agenda, this administration will introduce a social partners committee comprising representatives from government, labor unions, the private sector, churches, non-governmental organizations, and the youth to help steer government's policies going forward. This committee, chaired by the Prime Minister, will meet once quarterly to review current government initiatives and provide constructive feedback and suggestions for improvement from their respective organizations, thereby ensuring an inclusive approach to our shared development. Mr. Speaker, we do not pretend to have all the answers. This administration is committed to inclusive governance and welcomes innovative solutions from all citizens, especially our young people, to treat with our collective challenges and move our nation forward.
Of course, putting people first. But who people? Sounds good at putting people first. Your people first. The nation builders and your people are first. Your friends, chief officer, your constituents, secretary, executive secretary, and cabinet secretary and press secretary, and it could go on. And they're not just getting ministerial positions, you know. They're getting work behind the scenes when there's any government forum or so for to decorate, and who have security company and who have cleaning company. Oh, don't worry, I go clean all up with that, right? Everybody forming a company. They don't already get in big position, CABSEC, but you have companies, all sorts of companies, cleaning company, and some of them have security company, and some have decorating company. It all stays within them, right there, keeping all Grenadians informed, he said. The promise was, Prime Minister, that you, and I'm speaking of the NDC here, will come back to us quarterly in town halls to keep us informed and updating us on the happenings. Instead, what did you say? What did you tell us? What did you do? You canceled the traditional post-cabinet briefing that was held weekly by past administrations, both NDC and NNP alike. And what did you say? You'll come to us on a need-to-know basis. In 2.5 years, it doesn't seem like we needed to know, because you never came to us in a cabinet briefing, in a post-cabinet briefing. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, Naline Joseph, Orlando Romaine, Andrea St. Bernard, Teddy St. Louis, William Baptiste, Garvin Pear, nation builders. But it looks as though Garvin Pear made the landing. It looks so. The transformation was sold and bought by the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Nowadays, that's the biggest bad word, so to speak. Let's hear the Prime Minister on transformation.
Transformation is the word that best describes, that best embodies the vision that this administration holds for Grenada. For too long, services and infrastructure critical in supporting our citizens to fulfill their potential as individuals and attain a high quality of life were ignored. Such was the disrepair in our society that our team understood moving Grenada forward would require an immense wave of change, a revolution in our manner of thinking and our approach to sustainable development as a nation. In a world that is becoming more technological by the day, our school system is still geared towards a 20th century worldview. As a small island developing state with large ocean space that is vulnerable to the effects of climate change and overly reliant on the importation of food, our children are still socialized to believe that employment in agriculture and the marine industries is somehow not desirable or economically viable. Our education and training models, too, are not tailored to suit our unique reality, the needs of our consumption patterns, nor our business sector.
Transformation. Another stillbirth. The morgue filling up with the stillbirth from the NDC. And then there was health. Health was placed on the front burner, but apparently they forgot to light the burner. Let's say the Prime Minister on health.
All of the above has not yet touched on the most critical aspect of our transformation agenda, which is addressing the total disregard for our healthcare systems. For too long, Grenadians have had to make do with an inept system that has undervalued its healthcare professionals and underfunded critical health services to the detriment of many. Mr. Speaker, access to affordable healthcare is a basic right that this administration intends to deliver to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Respect and the assurance of basic rights for our citizens is of utmost importance for this government and serves as the cornerstone of our transformation agenda.
So far, Prime Minister, you have not stepped up to that plate. Good health. So I said not. Anyways, lately, we were told our health system will be statutorized and that we were collaborating with Mount Sinai Hospital, a Jewish hospital in Manhattan, New York City, USA. According to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, everyone must pay for health care. But when it comes to education, the rich getting free education along with the poor and vulnerable. But when it comes to healthcare, rich or poor, vulnerable or not, according to Prime Minister, you will have to pay. The Minister for Health announced that the statutorization of our healthcare system is or will be of January the 1st, 2025. However, Prime Minister, when asked about it on, I believe it was the Burb Report, said that basically the Minister of Health didn't know what he was talking about. It's not going to be implemented. The process, he said, will begin. I promise you guys that early in the new year 2025, God's will, I will have a conversation with you on this whole healthcare thing. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I need to bring it to you. I'm doing my investigations. It's taking a long time. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of information coming to me. And so for the new year, sometime in the new year, for the first quarter, I would come to you with a full program on our healthcare and what's going on with the whole Mount Sinai and the statutorization and the loans from the banks and all of that. Okay, stay tuned. They hit the ground running, he said.
Some of us love to dance. but this administration is full of runners. And so, Mr. Speaker, this administration has hit the ground running. Our vision-oriented and purpose-driven approach has enabled us to achieve significant milestones in under 6 months. We have kept our promises to the citizens of Grenada and can proudly boast of several major achievements. We have paid the retroactive pensions and gratuity to a deserving public sector retiree who were unjustly denied their legally entitled rights, some for almost 10 years. The total payment, Mr. Speaker, estimated at $75 million to 525 retirees, is perhaps the single largest transfer of wealth from the state to citizens in the history of Grenada's post-independence. Mr. Speaker, simply put, promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we provided significant relief to our hard-working parents by removing the school fees to protect our children and ensure that they are not prevented from receiving the education they deserve. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, promise made, promise kept. We lowered the cost of fuel at the pumps to make it easier for our citizens to meet their daily commitments. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Grenada has had the lowest price of fuel in the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, in the last 4 months. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we took measures to reduce the cost of basic food items by capping freight on imported goods at the 2019 levels. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we face the gigantic task of getting our schools ready for the start of the school year last September. Through sheer determination and love for our people, all our school children and teachers were adequately accommodated at the start of the school term. As at the end of November 2022, we provided stimulus grants up to a maximum of $30,000 to 308 micro, small, and medium-sized businesses to the tune of $4.5 million through the COVID-19 Economic Support Secretariat, commonly called CES. Further, we provided grant support through the Rural Development Unit to 177 beneficiaries, amounting to over $500,000 to help start and grow their businesses. Through our policies and programs, including the decision to pay the retroactive pensions, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, and other international financial institutions upgraded Grenada's growth projection for 2022 from 3.3% in October to 5% by year end.
So it's up to you to compare all the promises made, promises kept then to what's going on now. For instance, the gas prices. Where's the cap? The cap blow off, right? And we paying sometimes through our teeth for gas, right? He said for almost 10 years, you know. So from 1979, March 13th, 1979, to 2022, when he came into office, is 10 years? I don't know, but my math gave me 43 years, and I taken my lessons that was paid for me, and I'm impressed with myself. Mr. Orlando Romain seat adult classes for me. I am taking my classes, and when I subtract 1979 to 2022, I didn't get 10 years. I got 43 years. Morris Bishop revolutionary government removed government pension. Didn't happen 10 years, right? Removed government pension after the overthrow of the Eric Gary government when he suspended the Constitution. They introduced the NIS, the National Insurance Scheme. Since then, we had 2 NDC administrations, and I'm not counting the 2022 one, right? And 5 NNP administrations. So how is it we counting from the last 10 years? Prime Minister, explain that. Conveniently, again, it's like when he wanted to not draw attention to all his travels. He conveniently started from July of 2024, after he already spent 2 years in office. It was only the big businesses and companies, conglomerates, that benefited from the capping of the freight. And you know that. And businesses have said so. Even some of the big businesses did not benefit from it. Small businesses and the ordinary man on the ground felt nothing. To date, we felt nothing. Let's talk CES, COVID-19 Economic Support Secretariat. What's that? COVID-19 Economic Support Secretariat. Where is this secretariat, Prime Minister? Please tell us about CES. What its success, the success rate. Show us or share with us, rather, some CES success stories. How's the businesses going? How many persons was gainfully employed by CES? If you gave a person $25,000 to open a business, a studio, for instance, there should be employment. Therefore, I ask the question, how many persons are gainfully employed through the CES program? Millions was given out to party hawks and supporters. We need a report, Prime Minister. Ambassador and advisor to the Prime Minister and Government of Grenada, Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, was holding the money bag. Let me tell you a little about Andrea St. Bernard, our superwoman. You know, we have Superman. We have Superwoman as well. Andrea St. Bernard is the treasurer of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. She is a CBI agent and ambassador or special envoy, as they call it, for development and investment. Listen carefully. She is a CBI agent, and her ambassadorial description, she is ambassador for development and investment in the office of the Prime Minister. A clear conflict of interest. But Grenada is small. We expect conflict of interest. We expect corruption. Right? That's nothing. Because Grenada is small, it's a small place, according to Prime Minister Mitchell, we expect that. Ms. Andrea St. Bernard is the chairperson of the Board of Directors of Grenada Development Bank, the infamous Grenada Development Bank. She's also a director on the GrenLec board and a member of the first cabinet. She is almost always a member of the Prime Minister's travel entourage. Superwoman indeed. Did I mention the Chief of Staff is the Deputy Chairman of the GrenLec board? Just by the way. Just by the way. One big family. Nepotism at its highest. Grenada credit ratings, according to Prime Minister in his budget presentation.
Mr. Speaker, we are even more optimistic and expect that our growth rate will reach 6% this year. Mr. Speaker, Grenada's credit rating has remained unchanged, that of selective default. And that status has been since 2015.
NDC, a solid foundation. That's why we are in big trouble. Listen up.
Laying a solid foundation for sustainable progress. Mr. Speaker, we cannot transform Grenada into a resilient, fair, and prosperous society on a weak foundation. As every builder knows, the foundation is the most important part of the structure. Our administration is eager to begin the many projects and programs we know will improve the lives of our citizens. However, we are also mindful that without a solid base, be it infrastructural, legislative, or through sensitization and training with citizens, these initiatives will not be sustainable. Like a home, Mr. Speaker, without a solid base underneath, it is only a matter of time until the structure begins to show cracks. It is in this mindset of judiciousness, Mr. Speaker, that our very first budget addresses the foundational structures that will set the stage for transforming and sustainably moving Grenada forward.
So Grenada, we can all agree that Grenada has not been transformed. So if Grenada is not transformed, then according to Prime Minister, the foundation crack up, right? The foundation crack up. Now what caused that? Incompetence, ignorance. They don't know that they don't know. Ineptness, a bunch of inexperienced upstarts. I warned you guys before, didn't I? Before the elections, I warned you guys. They said give them a chance. So we give them a chance. How can you all put a bunch of novice to run a whole country? A whole country we playing with. Would you put a newly graduate from secondary school to be a principal at that school? A principal to lead, to run the school? Would you go see a doctor who is not certified, who did not even go to medical school? No. And why? Why did you vote for a leader and his group who has no training in politics? A leader who has no training as a political leader, much less a prime minister. No experience. Would you put a 13-year-old to manage a family business? No, because he or she is a novice. That bunch are all novice. And therefore one cannot help the other. I mean, let me pull out a two from there. That's not really novice, but they can't make it either. So let me not say the entire bunch. Cornwall, Toes, maybe Andal. But some of them lazy to the bone. You put a novice to head our country. Allocations, specific allocations, huge ones in comparison to the previous budget, big allocations. What was done with those allocations? Let's listen.
Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to delivering on our promises. We are prepared to invest in areas that we see as critical in transforming Grenada. Allow me, therefore, Mr. Speaker, to briefly compare our 2023 allocations for some key areas relative to the 2022 budget of the former administration. In the area of health and wellness, we have allocated a sum of $114.2 million in 2023 compared to the allocation of $97.1 million in 2022. In education, youth, sports, and culture, we have allocated a sum of $193.9 million in 2023 compared to the allocation of $182.5 million in 2022, an increase of $11.4 million. Again, the highest allocation to education, youth, sports, and culture in the history of this country. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated a sum of $54.3 million to the agriculture and fishery sectors as compared to $40 million by the previous administration, an increase of $14.3 million. Again, Mr. Speaker, this is the biggest sum of money that has been pumped into the agriculture and fishery sector in recent years. Mr. Speaker, the previous administration allocated $0 to the creative economy. Let me repeat that. The previous administration, Mr. Speaker, allocated $0 in 2022 to the creative economy. This vital and strategic area, especially for young people, was neglected. We have allocated a sum of $3.4 million, inclusive of a culture and creative industry fund that will provide direct financing support to our creatives. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated a sum of $143.1 million to the Ministry of Infrastructure, Physical Development, Public Utilities, Civil Aviation, and Transportation, as against an allocation of $133.9 million in 2022. Mr. Speaker, these allocations underscore our commitment as a government to prioritize these critical areas of development.
Huge allocations. And what was done with it? What was done with the allocation? Because, compared to the former administration, millions more allocated. That's all it was, allocations, right? Granted, in 2022, we were just coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Slowly, I might add. And we have nothing to show for those allocations. 2019, you comparing with 2019 when we were in a pandemic? And your big allocations in agriculture, for instance, the largest ever. You're happy to boast about it. What was done in agriculture from 2023 to now? And we had another budget, We had another budget, the 2024, that we didn't get to yet, right? What have you all done with those allocations? Forget NNP, but you have to compare your allocations to NNP own. That's all it is. That's not what you have to compare. You have to compare the work done, not the allocation. Compare the policies and the programs and the projects. Compare the work done. That's the comparison we want. Moving on, health and wellness.
Prioritizing health and wellness. Mr. Speaker, transforming our healthcare system is the single most important priority for this administration. Our ultimate goal is to transform Grenada into the health capital of the Eastern Caribbean. This means the highest quality in healthcare facilities and services with access for all, underpinned by a culture of healthy lifestyles. Mr. Speaker, the former administration touted healthcare as a priority. However, there was absolutely no plan to develop the health sector. The facilities were ignored, and our healthcare professionals were treated with disregard. Our nurses in particular were fleeing in droves, and critical services were not provided. Mr. Speaker, our citizens were, and still are, literally afraid to be committed to our hospitals for care. This administration, Mr. Speaker, is committed to delivering on the quality of healthcare that our people deserve. Our health is our greatest asset and therefore quintessential to the transformation agenda. And so, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that strengthening our human resource capacity is going to be critical if we are going to transform our healthcare sector. The government is taking concrete steps to address the human resource capacity challenges facing the healthcare sector. Of great concern is the mass exodus of our nurses. We have engaged the nursing fraternity and have listened to their concerns, which include poor working conditions, job insecurity, nurse shortages, and inadequate compensation. Mr. Speaker, we will move swiftly to address the regularization of our nurses and the training of more nursing professionals. Mr. Speaker, as an immediate step in addressing the matter of compensation, we will pay all our nurses an honorarium of $500 per month or $6,000 for the year 2023. So let me repeat, Mr. Speaker. We will pay our nurses an honorarium of $500 per month for the next 12 months commencing January 2023. Mr. Speaker, a sum of $4.2 million has been allocated for this initiative. Mr. Speaker, we have also approved the creation of 21 mission-critical positions across the health system to be filled in the next year. And in addition, we have approved the unfreezing of key positions so that persons who are functioning in these positions can be confirmed in their job positions. Upgrading our health facilities. Mr. Speaker, our current hospital is not adequate if we are serious about transforming our health sector. Mr. Speaker, we have made a commitment to construct a new, modern public hospital with teaching facilities as the centerpiece to the development of the education, health, and wellness sector. The economic and health benefits from such a project have never been in doubt, Mr. Speaker. Preliminary studies have already confirmed the potential significant impact on our economy. To demonstrate our commitment in this regard, we will launch this project next year and complete the necessary preliminaries to commence the project. The amount of $5 million has been budgeted for phase 1 of the new hospital project next year. Additionally, we will upgrade our health facilities across the Tri-Island state and introduce systems including primary healthcare teams, to strengthen primary healthcare access and delivery. Mr. Speaker, we need to embrace technology if we are going to transform our health sector. Mr. Speaker, the digitalization of our health records is another area that this administration intends to address as we seek to modernize our health system. Negotiations are already at an advanced stage to transition entire rooms filled with files of patient data to the digitized world. This initiative will provide employment and training in new skills, create greener and more efficient workspaces, and begin building the framework for modern information systems within our government structure. The expenditure for this project will not impact, Mr. Speaker, the 2023 budget. Promoting mental wellness. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic negatively affected the mental health of many and heightened the risk for people already suffering from mental illnesses and substance use disorders. Mental wellness, therefore, is a priority for this administration. With support from the Caribbean Development Bank, we will implement a major integrated project, the COVID-19 Health Sector Strengthening Project, aimed at addressing the mental well-being of citizens, especially our young people, many of whom are struggling with substance abuse and psychological challenges. To this end, Mr. Speaker, an allocation of $500,000 has been made for the Carlton House project in 2023, which seeks to begin works on the much-needed rehabilitation facility. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that an integrated approach to healthcare and healthy lifestyles must be adopted if we are to sustainably improve the well-being of our nation. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this administration will develop synergies between health, education, agriculture, and other key sectors to reinforce and build on each other to achieve greater outcomes.
Primary health care. Let's deal with primary health care first. Primary health care was well on its way when you, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, came into office in 2022. Nothing was done since to continue or to improve it. The brand new state-of-the-art polyclinic in Guelph, St. John, that you run like a surgery, what we call a surgery, when I was growing up as a child. And when I say you here, I don't mean you as in Deacon Mitchell, I mean you, your administration. The newly refurbished health clinic in St. Mark that is not used to its full potential. And persons up north and on the western side still have to travel all the way to St. George's to the General Hospital for an emergency. Waste the time going to the Princess Alice Hospital because that's a big old clinic, right? And so when you go there, they still send you on to the General Hospital in St. George's. The Carlton House, the Carlton House, an important institution like that, big allocation, been through several budget presentations, and not just from NDC, from NNP administration as well. But you came in on the white horse, right? And you're going to fix everything. And you have the biggest allocations. You know, what is funny about this Carlton House thing? The grand moves. Because right after the 2023 budget, maybe mere days, they cut down, Bush cut down, thing clear up. Everybody say, wow, Thank God, it's about time the Carlton House is going to be rebuilt. Bush grew back tall, 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 bigger than before. Then another time, I don't remember if it was after the next budget or in between that, they gone and they cut down all the bushes again to mammogai us and make us believe that something is happening. Minister of ICT, what his name is MIT, when they're passing on a scene, going up there with his camera, you know, people taking pictures of him, they had to take photos, and a lot of it is from behind. They're going up, wherever they're going. Big time. And to date, not a brick was laid. Co-op Bank since end their campaign, the work they used to have towards the Carlton Home, because they've gotten to the amount and more than they were that they were heading to, right? And so they moved on. So that money is sitting there. If it's sitting there, because the minister say money, you could do anything with any money. So me know if that money is still there. Nothing was done towards making a move towards rebuilding the Carlton Home. They were moving swiftly to regularize all our nurses. And today, as we speak, nothing so. But like NDC swiftly, you know, they're always going to move swiftly or moving swiftly. And 2.5 years has passed, and the swift moves ain't happened yet. Today, what we have is the Minister for Health with some cockamamie story of why they can't regularize the nurses, why it can happen. Instead of regularizing, they're still dishing out new contracts. Let's hear what the Minister of Health had to say.
What is the first thing you do? You first want to recognize them as somebody in the system. So you basically either renew or issue a contract to recognize you as an employee. Right? So that's the first thing you have to do. So 2024, I want to ensure that every single body who are providing a service within the sector be given a contract. And with that, there is a complex problem. Because you have not been given a contract, you've been paid the same money that you've been paid when you started, let's say 10 years ago. You've been paid the same salary. You cannot claim any kind of, you don't get any kind of increase or any kind of recognition because you're not recognized in the system.
Right.
How are we doing? We now, in giving them that instrument, you now have to calculate for that period of time how much increases you should have gotten, and that will be added to your salary, and that is what you're going to get. So to take you, because if you don't do that, you'll find, and that is actually happening, you'll find people who just come in, they're getting more money than somebody who was there 10 years ago because you never got a salary increase. So when you have the union speaking about issuing new contracts should be issued on the opposition or whoever it is, and I'm not attacking anybody. The opposition is doing what they're supposed to do. They're making noises, they, drawing things to attention, and that's it. That's what it is. But we had to be sensible. Terry, we have to be sensible. We must appreciate where we are and the things that must be urgently done. And one of it has to do with these contracts. Bring people up to speed in terms of what your salary should be, give them an instrument of appointment, at least for 2024. And 2025, when you have been able to sort of normalize the situation, then you can talk about regularization, bringing them onto the general payroll in the way that it should be in terms of long-term, stable employment. All right? But we must start somewhere. And the sensible place to start is issuing them a contract and taking them to the salary that it should be earning in the first place.
That's the word, Minister. Issuing a contract. Just say you guys are continuing to issue contracts. All the Tim, the Nancy stories, ain't cutting it. Just say it. Just instead of beating around all the bushes, just to say that you are still issuing contracts 2.5 years later. A promise you couldn't keep. And you all have reverted to continuing to give contracts to nurses, among others. Hear more.
Frustrated. So now we, the government, must take full responsibility. Government is a continuum. We take full responsibility. We understand this is a problem. We embrace the problem. And now we are going to fix it. Right? It is on the outside. When you're in opposition, it's easy to say, we'll fix it day one. Well, the truth is, we intended to fix it on day one. And we approached and started the process on day one. But as in everything else, you cannot fix all of it on day one.
Takes
So
time.
you have to adopt measures that are workable and where you can achieve the outcome over a reasonable period of time. And that's exactly what the position the government has taken.
I like him, you know. I like him. He said that it's easy to stay on the outside and say what you could do, but when you come in and reality hit, you see you can't do it. That's facts. That's just speaking the truth. You stay out there, you don't know a thing about what is going on. You don't know a thing about the public service and the policies, but you out there saying you're going to get rid of contract work, right? There will be no parallel public service. Everybody would be regularized. Not so fast. Not just so. You can't fix it in 12 months. You cannot fix it, right? But you did say you will fix it, and you said you will fix it in 12 months. So now you know you can't fix it. You can't fix everything at once, as the minister just said. But you sold that to the people in the campaign, though. And they bought it. This after this administration campaigned on regularization of contract workers in 12 months.
The Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office.
He then came to Parliament and told us that they never said that they would regularize in 12 months.
We never said we would regularize the public service in 12 months. We said we would regularize it. And we have begun to do so. And
Say that again. You never said you would regularize in 12 months? Okay. Who's speaking here now?
The Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office.
Okay. That was Bambi. That wasn't the Prime Minister. Plain lies. Plain, in bright daylight. The suit. You guys remember the suit? That beige-ish looking suit? Do it again, Prime Minister. Do it again. Leave that suit home. But let's hear Cindy daughter saying, let's be straight with the people. Straight up, said T-Dota. You come from the Carolina, you ain't messing around, right? You straight up with the people.
That said, we also raised the issue of contract work and how unfair contract work is, whether it's taking place in the public sector or the private sector, and the need to regularize as much as we can contract workers. But let's be straight. We're going to be straight with the nation. Contract work and pension reform must go together. Because we commit to pay the retroactive pension, and we are doing so. We understand the import of the ruling of the court. But so as not to do severe damage, perhaps even irreparable damage to our economy in the long run, we must work out a pension plan going forward that's sustainable. Because as it stands now, when people retire, they are entitled to NIS, that's public servants I mean, they are entitled to NIS plus government pension, and government pension is a non-contributory pension, which means the government alone pays everything into the pension fund, plus under the NIS law, the government pays 6% into the NIS, into the National Insurance Fund. So going forward, that will be a really hefty sum that the IMF and everybody else have already warned is not sustainable going forward as it is. Plus, if we regularize contract workers across the board without at the same time treating with pension reform, what do? We bloat the public service. We expand the public service, and in so doing, the amount of people who would be eligible for pension. So we call on our friends in the labor movement to sit with us and work out an acceptable mode going forward, where everyone will be happy, where we will not leave an unbearable financial burden for those who come after us, and where those who retire going forward will not have to retire into poverty. So I look forward to Mr. President, my learned friend, and his colleagues in the union. When I say Mr. President, I mean Mr. President of the GTUC, Madam President, and his colleagues in the union, working with us to come up with a solution that the workers will be happy with, that the government coffers will be happy with, and that the people of Grenada in general will be happy with.
She spoke of irreparable damage and a bloated public service. And who said the daughter come pointing hands, fingers at, as if it's we that say we're going to regularize everybody across the board? You all said it. You all didn't do your investigation. You all didn't think and sit down and investigate the matter before, even if you got a warning from the former prime minister that that cannot happen like that. Oh no, we can do it to get votes, right? So don't come and shake finger at us now. Fix it. Do it. Do what you said you were going to do. Irreparable damages? IMF? Oh, really? Now the IMF tell you all it's not sustainable? Dr. Mitchell told you all it wasn't sustainable. He did. So let's tell him sit down and shut up, innit? Yeah? Folks, we're going to end this week here with the budget presentation, but trust me, the best is yet to come. We have education and all those things coming up. The behind National Insurance Scheme. I'm coming. So we're going to finish it next week. But we stop here this week. So we'll move right into the is it true and question section. Question for the Prime Minister. Is there missing monies, Prime Minister, from the Golden Jubilee celebration of $22.5 million allocation? Is there missing monies in that allocation? And is that why we cannot get an account of the spendings of the $22.5 million for the celebration, the Golden Jubilee celebrations? The opposition had questions. We've had questions here on Simon Says. To the Minister of Finance, you promised in the Parliament of Grenada, the lower house, that you will come back to us, the people, at the closing of the celebrations with the accounting, with accountability, the accountability of the spending of the people's money allocated for the Golden Jubilee independence celebrations. The celebrations was wrapped up at the end of October 2024, sir. We await. Just to say, Prime Minister, that I know that you know the monies are missing, and you know who stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Simon Says also know who stole the cookie from the cookie jar. And so Simon Says is giving you, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, the opportunity to come to the nation with your findings. Come clean, Prime Minister, or we will. This one is not going down as Minister Lacrette and the Lotto and William Batiste. The nation has to know. The nation will know. All your ministers of cabinet, I say to you, history will not be kind to you all. Stand up and speak out. You all know and is condoning the wrongdoings of your Prime Minister and his nation builders. And some of you inside the cabinet as well that are getting a free pass for wrongdoings. What a disappointing bunch of gravy train riders you all are. Is it true the Lottery Authority bought and brought in 3 brand new vehicles, 2 for the Lottery Authority and 1 for the chairman of the board, Mr. William Batiste of Catwill Stationery? Prime Minister, is it true? Is it true the managing director of the National Lottery Authority, Miss Cindy Henry, salary went from $9,000 to $16,000 on the entrance of the NDCN office in 2022? And is that so because the extra $7,000 goes to Chief Nation Builder, Mr. William Batiste, as a means of giving him a salary? Prime Minister, we await the investigation of the corruption of the National Lottery Authority between the chairman of the board, Mr. William Batiste, and his lover, the managing director of the authority, the same authority, Miss Cindy Henry, and on the abuse and the misuse of the Lotto resources. Prime Minister, please investigate the bribery that took place between your MIT minister and the contractor of the Cliff Road project, $115,000 in cash and kind. $100,000 cash in his hand, shake hand, and $15,000 to fix his pickup truck. I mean, really and truly, according to my good friend, Minister of Tourism, really and truly, you don't need to investigate that, you know. The information I'm giving you here is credible information. And I'm going to threaten you again. I'm going to put it up on Simon Says screen one of these days. I'm giving you a chance, Prime Minister. I'm giving you a chance to come clean with your minister, your blue-eyed boy, our acting Prime Minister as we speak. If you're taking $100,000 in exchange for a project, a contract, my goodness, that we know of, can you tell me as acting Prime Minister what has gone? Grenadians, you sitting there and you allowing these things to happen. If it was NDC in office, they don't take the street. Dozens of times already, all 50 of them. I could say of us, I used to be among it. Take the streets in protest. Now they're in office. Everybody turning a blind eye. Who had in the sun, in the sun? Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, who gave the authorization to release the heavy equipment that was in the custody of the RGPF back to the contractor on the True Blue Road project that caused the death of a young man from St. Patrick? The heavy equipment was impounded by the police for non-licensing and no insurance. Prime Minister, put a technical committee, you know you're good at that. Put a technical committee together to investigate what I call or term manslaughter of that young man. Because if that equipment wasn't released back to the contractor and on the road, that young man would have been alive today. Unlicensed, uninsured. Hell, we could call it murder. I beg for an investigation. Is it true the solar lights going around the island of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique on government properties and roadways, fields, are brought in for that purpose, I should say, by your friend and buddy? That's the one, the white poles with the blue base that the lights dim. Is it true that the lights are brought in by a bestie of yours, Prime Minister, who sells car parts? And is it true he's also the chairman of the Spice Mass Corporation? Failed chairman or not, he's not moving, he dead. Is it true his brother has the contract to put up the lights? All in the family. All in the family. Is it true the Minister of Climate Resilience, Minister Karine James, held a birthday party for the permanent secretary of her ministry, lavishly done so as well, under the ministry's budget, taxpayers' money? If the minister want to hold a birthday party for her peers, please do it from your resources, Minister. So we're asking of you now to replace the money you take from the ministry to hold a birthday party, lavish birthday party for your permanent secretary. This thing is cuckoo. People don't just dip into thing and into the government resources and just do what you want. This is a country, I'd say that we're dealing with. Laws, regulations, legislations, rules and regulations. Come on now. And they say you have a lot of money in the bank, you know, I didn't say. I hear this one, I come in with a little piece of gossip. Someone says, but I hear you have a lot of money in the bank and you get it from climate change. They say the money is yours. You get a letter you come to the country with that says the money is yours and not the country's money. Why you use some of that for the birthday party? Come on now. How much cupcakes? I had a lot of cupcakes, you know, and God awake. You must be mad. No. Many conferences, many seminars, many workshops, many forums, all connected to the creatives. Who getting the work to do the decor? Who's getting the work to do the branding? Time. Oh, my sneeze. Sorry, excuse me. Time. Ooh, something just dust bothering me here. Who getting the work to do the branding? Who's getting the work to do the marketing? Who's doing the facilitating? Who's doing the entertaining? In all these many forums and international people coming in, First Wives of Atlanta, and I mean, you just name it. And all sorts of forums. What do you call that? Shop front. They have a name for that kind of thing. They have but something else going on in the back, you know. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. Always a pleasure conversing with you, keeping them honest. Thank you for viewing another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week, same time, same place, as we continue this conversation. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.